She laughed in his face, right there on the sidewalk in front of everyone. Grown-ups sipping lemonade on porches, kids balancing on scooters, even the mailman who paused just long enough to pretend he wasn't eavesdropping. Special forces? Karen sneered, like the words themselves were a punchline. Your daddy? She tilted her sunglasses down, staring at Marcus like he'd just claimed to be the tooth fairy. Sweetheart, don't make things up to sound cool. Her laugh, sharp and sugary, echoed down the street, followed by a few awkward chuckles from the peanut gallery. Marcus didn't say anything, just blinked at her. His hand tightened around the handle of his bike, but he stood still. Shoulders squared, silent. He wasn't the kind of kid who talked much. 11 years old, polite to a fault, always helped carry groceries for the older folks even when no one asked. Most days, he wore the same navy hoodie and jeans, even in the heat. Quiet, yes, but not timid. So when he'd said, "My dad's coming home today," we believed him. And when he added, "He's in special forces," we didn't doubt it. Till Karen decided to turn it into a neighborhood spectacle. She always needed a target. Usually it was someone's front lawn or holiday lights being one shade off regulation. But today, it was Marcus. His calm confidence must have rubbed her the wrong way. You could see it in her smirk. That hunger some people get when they think they've caught someone in a lie. She leaned in a little closer and said, loud enough for every ear in range, "If your daddy's so elite, where is he?" Marcus didn't flinch. He just whispered, "You'll see." Karen didn't. Just stop there, oh no. She turned it into a full-on performance, the kind that made you wonder if she rehearsed these scenes in front of her mirror. She straightened up, clapped her hands dramatically, and spun to the other parents standing nearby. "Did you hear that? Special forces," she exclaimed, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "We've got ourselves a real-life action hero, folks. I guess we should roll out the red carpet." A few of the adults exchanged glances, unsure whether to laugh or intervene. Most just smiled politely, because no one wanted to be on Karen's bad side. She ran the HOA with the kind of grip that'd make a mafia boss blush. Marcus kept his eyes on the ground. He didn't argue, didn't try to prove anything, but you could see it, that flicker behind his eyes, that quiet kind of hurt that doesn't show up loud but lingers for a long time. And that's when Karen made it worse. She crouched down to his level, sunglasses sliding to the tip of her nose, and said, "Look, sweetie, I know it's hard not having a dad around. You don't have to make up stories to feel important." She even patted him on the shoulder like she was doing him a favor. And that was it. You could feel something shift in the air, that sudden quiet that happens when a line's been crossed. A few of us kids stepped in, tried to change the subject, but the damage was done. Karen stood up like she'd just won a game. "Let me know when G.I. Joe gets here," she chuckled, walking off with her little dog in tow like nothing had happened. Marcus didn't say another word, but he didn't leave either. He just waited. About 10 minutes passed, maybe 15, long enough for Karen to forget she'd even said anything. She was back in her driveway, watering her imported tulips and gossiping on speakerphone like the front yard was her personal stage. Marcus hadn't moved. He just stood there, one hand resting on his bike, eyes locked on the bend in the road. The way you do when you know something's coming. None of us said a word. We just waited with him, quiet and tense, like we could feel something about to snap. Then it happened. A black SUV rolled up the street. Slow, steady, silent. The kind that doesn't announce itself with noise, just presence. Windows tinted. Not flashy, just sharp. The engine purred low as it pulled up to the curb, and when the driver's door opened, Marcus finally smiled. He didn't have to say anything. We knew. The man who stepped out wasn't wearing a uniform. No medals, no patches, no indication of anything, really. Just a plain gray t-shirt stretched over a chest built like concrete. Cargo pants and boots that hit the pavement like they meant something. He moved like a shadow that had muscle. Every step was deliberate, purposeful, quiet power. And then, without a word, he looked at Marcus, and the kid ran straight into his arms. That hug didn't need explanation. You could feel the weight of months, maybe years, behind it. The kind of embrace that says, I'm home and I'm not letting go. Karen paused mid-hose, frozen. Her jaw actually dropped, because when the man turned around, with Marcus still, clinging to his side, he gave her a nod. Not a friendly one, not angry either. Just that calm, unreadable look only people who've seen too much tend to wear. Karen tried to recover, of course. She gave this weird little laugh, the kind that sounds like a cough wrapped in denial, and called out, well, guess someone finally showed up. But there was no swagger in her voice this time, no smirk, just nervous energy leaking out the sides. Marcus's dad didn't answer. He didn't even look at her. He was scanning the area, the sidewalks, the porches, the people frozen in place pretending to be busy with their phones or lawn chairs. And when he finally spoke, his voice was low, controlled. Which one of you humiliated my son? It wasn't a question. It was a warning wrapped in velvet. No one moved. Karen, still holding her garden hose like a limp microphone, cleared her throat. I was just joking around. Kids make up stories all the time. She forced a chuckle, didn't mean anything by it. He stared at her, not aggressive but unblinking. You called my son a liar in front of a crowd, mocked him, touched him. That means something to me. The silence was thick enough to chew. Karen's cheeks flushed bright red and her lips twitched like she was searching for a comeback. None came, just this pitiful squeak. Well, how was I supposed to know? You weren't, he replied, stepping forward, and you didn't have to. Then he dropped to one knee beside Marcus and said, just loud enough for the rest of us to hear, when someone tells you who they are, believe them, and if they're telling the truth, you stand with them. Got it? Marcus nodded, eyes shining. Karen tried to laugh again, but this time it caught in her throat. She knew she'd lost the moment. And the street. That's when we found out who he really was. See, a few folks in the neighborhood, the ones who'd stayed quiet during Karen's little sidewalk roast, started whispering now. One leaned over to her husband. Isn't that the guy from the news? She muttered. Another guy, standing by his pickup, just nodded slowly. He's the one who pulled his team out of that ambush last year. They gave him some medal for it, something big, presidential level, and suddenly everything clicked into place. Marcus's dad wasn't just Special Forces, he was that Special Forces. He didn't talk about it, didn't flaunt it. He just stood there beside his son, calm as ever, while the neighborhood reassembled itself around the truth. Karen, meanwhile, looked like she was trying to shrink into the petunias. She opened her mouth to say something else, but this time, nobody cared what she had to say. Her power had always come from knowing everyone's business. But now, everyone was looking past her. Someone from the end of the block, Mr. Dalton, an older vet who never talked much, stepped off his porch and walked straight over to Marcus's dad. Respect, he said simply, offering a handshake. Marcus's dad took it. Appreciate that, sir. That moment cracked whatever false authority Karen had built for herself. You could almost see it fall apart piece by piece. A few more neighbors came over. Not to Karen, to him, asking how long he'd be staying, offering a cold drink, telling Marcus how proud he should be. No big declarations, just real warmth. The kind Karen had never managed to fake. And Marcus? He stood a little taller. Karen didn't take it well. For someone used to being the loudest voice on the block, being ignored hit harder than a slap. She hovered near her driveway, lips twitching, trying to insert herself back into the moment. Well, if I'd known he was really military, I wouldn't have. She trailed off, watching heads turn. Not toward her, but away. No one cared anymore. Her little performance had backfired. And not just because she was wrong, but because she was cruel. The moment was no longer about her. It was about the kid she embarrassed, and the man who walked into that chaos with dignity instead of rage. One neighbor, a quiet single mom named Janine, gave Marcus a popsicle from her cooler and said, "You okay, sweetheart?" Marcus gave the smallest nod. That was enough. Janine shot Karen a look so sharp it could have cut a hedge clean. And, just like that, lines started to form. Quiet ones, but real. Neighbors who usually kept to themselves started walking over, not to apologize for staying silent, but to let Marcus know they saw him, that they saw what had been done to him. And, Karen? She faded into the background, red-faced, arms crossed, pretending to be busy with a watering can that wasn't even turned on. Later that evening, word spread fast. Not just about who Marcus's dad was, but about what Karen had said. Screenshots from the neighborhood group chat popped up with her usual supporters staying suspiciously quiet. One even posted, "Did anyone else hear how she talked to that boy today? Disgusting." Her name started showing up in texts, not in bold, but in shame, because in that moment, it wasn't just about disrespect. It was about a boy who told the truth, and a woman who thought mocking him was funny, until the truth stood 10 feet tall and stared her down. The next day, things started shifting, in ways Karen couldn't control. Marcus's dad didn't make a show of it. He didn't walk around, introducing himself or explaining who he was. He just stayed, quiet, present, intentional. Every morning he'd go for a jog before sunrise. Every afternoon he'd be out front with Marcus, fixing up his bike, playing catch, talking about school like nothing ever happened. But people noticed, and more importantly, when they started following his lead. A few dads who usually kept to themselves, suddenly offering to organize a weekend block BBQ. Moms who never spoke unless it was through HOA newsletters, bringing over lemonade and cookies like it was 1955. The air in the neighborhood felt different, like someone had opened a window and let something real in. Karen? She doubled down, started patrolling the street more than usual, clipboard in hand, complaining about trash cans being left out too long, posting passive-aggressive messages in the neighborhood group chat. "Let's all be honest with our kids about the realities of life," she wrote one night. "We don't need fantasy stories creating false expectations." That one hit hard. And Marcus's dad? He didn't say a word. He just took a photo of her message, added it to a file, and closed his phone. That night he made a few calls, not loud ones, not threats. Just quiet conversations with the right people. A local veterans group. A lawyer he used to serve with. Even the school principal. People like her, he told me later. They count on silence. On nobody pushing back. But I didn't survive. Would I've survived to watch my son be shamed in his own neighborhood? And from that moment on, Karen wasn't the only one keeping notes. It all came to a head at the next HOA meeting. Karen loved those. She'd show up with her little binder of violations, dressed like she was running for office, wearing perfume strong enough to clear a room. Normally, they were uneventful, just rule updates and passive-aggressive slideshows about lawn height. But this time, there were more people than usual, way more. And when Marcus's dad walked in, quietly, no fanfare, the entire room shifted. He didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. When the floor opened for resident concerns, he stood. Not with rage, with calm. "Last week," he said, "my son was humiliated in public for telling the truth." He didn't name Karen, didn't have to. She was sitting stiff as a board in the front row, her smile stretched too tight. A grown adult mocked him, questioned his integrity, and laughed in his face. And instead of apologizing, she doubled down. A few people murmured. One guy near the back nodded slowly. He continued, "I've served overseas. I've buried friends. I've protected people I'll never meet, but nothing cuts deeper than watching someone cut your own kid down, just for being proud of his father." His voice caught just slightly. Not weakness, just real. Karen tried to interrupt. "This isn't the place." "It is exactly the place," he said, eyes locking on her. "Because you've used this HOA to intimidate, shame, and silence. But not anymore." Then he pulled out a printed packet. Screenshots, witness statements, even a formal complaint from the veterans group about her behavior toward military families. Quiet gasps rolled through the room. One of the board members took it, flipping through slowly, face tightening with every page. And then came the words that landed like a gavel. "We're recommending an immediate vote to suspend your role as HOA president pending investigation." Karen blinked, shook her head, but no one defended her. Karen didn't even try to argue. Not. "Really?" She opened her mouth once or twice like she was gearing up for one of her classic speeches, all faux smiles and forced charm, but nothing came out. Just this thin, bitter silence that stretched way too long. She looked around the room like someone drowning, hoping for a hand. But all she saw were eyes that used to look up to her, now looking right through her. The vote passed. Unanimous. And just like that, Karen's reign, the HOA queen with the clipboard crown, was over. She left in a hurry that night, high heels clicking sharp against the tile, mumbling something about ungrateful people and this isn't over. But no one followed, no one said a word. Just the sound of the door swinging shut behind her. The neighborhood? It shifted again. Slowly, like thawing after a long frost. Folks started talking more, waving longer. A few even apologized to Marcus directly. Not in big dramatic ways, just quiet, heartfelt nods. Didn't realize how far she went. One man said, crouching down to Marcus's level, "But you handled yourself like a champ." And Marcus, he didn't smile much that week. Not like a kid celebrating a win. It wasn't about winning to him. It was about being seen, being believed. And once that finally happened, when the silence cracked open and the grown-ups actually listened, something in him stood taller. He walked different, shoulders back, chin up, like he didn't have to shrink to fit anyone else's comfort anymore. His dad stayed another week, helped repair some fences, played catch with the neighborhood kids, even showed up at the local middle school to give a quiet talk on service and strength. Nothing flashy, just real. Karen, she was quiet after that, still lived on the corner. But now, when she walked her little dog, no one paused to wave. A few weeks later, life on the street found its rhythm again. Kids zipped by on scooters, sprinklers clicked on and off across lawns. Porch lights flickered to life as the sun dipped down past the rooftops. And Marcus, he was right in the middle of it, playing tag, laughing louder than we'd ever heard him, like that weight he used to carry around finally let go. Nobody really talked about that day anymore. But the change? You could feel it. Karen still lived there. She still trimmed her hedges with military precision, still put up HOA notices on the bulletin board. Nothing had changed, but people had stopped reading them. Her clipboard was just a clipboard now. And that power she used to hold with a smirk and a sideways comment? Gone. Replaced with the quiet kind. The kind Marcus's dad carried in every step. He left town a few days after the meeting. No big goodbye. Just a quiet handshake with a few neighbors, a longer hug for his son, and a promise to be back soon. But his presence lingered, not in the stories, though there were plenty, but in the way people started treating each other. More patience, more truth, more listening. Marcus's bike was newer now, a gift from one of the dads who felt he owed the kid something. But he still rode it like the same quiet boy who didn't need to shout to be heard. Because now, when he said something, people leaned in, and on warm afternoons, when we see him sitting on the curb, hoodie pulled over his head sketching, pictures in his notebook, we don't see the kid who got laughed at. We see the one who stood tall without saying a word, and watched the truth walk up the street and silence a bully with nothing but presence. And that changed everything.